Hello, I'm Sasha Kirk, co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer at Lawcadia, and today I'm interviewing Andy Hill, Chairman and Director at Lawcadia.
No problem, Sasha. Lovely to talk with you.
Andy co-founded Oniqua, a supply chain analytics business that grew from a two-person startup in Australia to become the global leader in spare parts optimization for asset-intensive industries. Oniqua was acquired by IBM Watson in 2018. Andy is currently an investor and director of a number of startups, including Chairman of Lawcadia, and he is also the Regional Director of Corum Group, a global tech M&A firm. I'd love to hear some background to Oniqua, and I understand that during the time of your involvement with the business, there are a number of different sort of crisis points, and it'd be great to hear about how you managed to survive and navigate those.
Well, it was quite a long journey, over 20 years, and there were quite a few crises along the way. But I think the two sort of black swan moments that I probably learned most from were the GFC and 9/11. With 9/11, we actually signed a term sheet for venture capital investment on the 20th of August 2001. And we raised a few $1 million to set up operations in the US. And then, of course, 21 days later, 9/11 happened. And I think the mistake we made was we weren't quick enough to understand that we were dealing with a new reality, that the world had changed, and the business plan that we put together and raised capital on was no longer a possibility. But instead, we ended up trying to grow too quickly. We burnt a lot of cash, and we almost created the company. The understanding was that when a black swan comes along, you really do have to react and think through everything. But we were too slow to change there. And then with the GFC, there were sort of rumblings in the financial world for most of that year. But it took a little while to unfold, but then it happened really fast. And I remember one day when I was feeling really stressed about everything that was happening, and I actually just took myself home and sat down in a quiet room and wrote a business plan that assumed that we would lose 25% of our revenue, and then wrote another business plan to say what we would do if we lost 50% of our revenue. And then a third one which said, what would we do if we lost 75% of our revenue? And just doing that process actually made me feel better. It made me feel like, okay, we have plans, we just need to deal with it. And then we also need to reflect and consider what might happen next. What is this new world going to look like post-GFC?
Yeah, one of the things that you've spoken, to me about in the past was after the GFC, you almost had to sort of reinvent Oniqua because the world had changed so much, and I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, so going into the GFC, the company was actually performing really, really well. We were highly profitable. We were growing at, I think, 48% year-on-year growth. We were signing global deals with really large organizations, almost like clockwork every quarter. So it was going fantastically well. But I knew at that time that our business model wasn't sustainable and that we needed to become a cloud analytics vendor. Rather than an enterprise software vendor, we needed to move to the cloud and become a true cloud SaaS analytics business. But that was really hard because it meant that we basically had to re-engineer every single aspect of our business. Not just the technology, which would be extremely expensive, but the way we sold, the way we did customer support, every single aspect of the business. And I wasn't sure that we were able to do that. But as we sort of came through on the other side of GFC, I realized that we had no choice. The crisis had really sort of forced that change upon us. So we embarked on a project, we called it Oniqua 2.0. So it was really just this is version 2 of the company. And we took the company apart and then put it back together again, and over a number of years. And that was a very difficult process. And, you know, we went through some hard times, but we came through the other end a completely different business. And, you know, ultimately that led to IBM Watson acquiring the company in 2018.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear, you know, such a positive story. And it's, you know, easy to think that that is luck, but I know that there was a lot of hard work and planning that went into it.
There was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, but then it's also, I guess, having that sort of mindset right at the beginning. Actually, this is signaling that we need to change.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, we were slow to change in 9/11. I think we learned that with the GFC, that the universe was telling us we had to change. And so even though it was hard, even though it was difficult, we had no choice.
Yeah, I think that kind of really brings me on to my next question, because on the 29th of February, you texted Warwick, our CEO and founder here at Lawcadia, my co-founder. And I'm going to read the text message out because it was a real catalyst for us. So the text message says, "Hi Warwick, don't want to be alarmist, but assume you're thinking through the implications for Lawcadia of a possible coronavirus pandemic." And just one sort of small text message, but it really sort of coincided with a few other things that were happening for us. And that kind of led to us then having, you know, a really strong business continuity plan and being able to sort of execute and be ready ahead of when we needed to be. So I'm kind of curious about sort of what prompted you to do that.
Yeah, yes. At 6 p.m. on a Saturday, I think
it was.
Probably a glass of wine, I suspect. But no, one of the benefits, I guess, of being a chair as opposed to a CEO is you have a little bit more time to reflect, and you're just that little bit more detached from the day to day. And I remember as a CEO, it's such a whirlwind of activity. There's just so many things happening in a startup that it's really hard to separate the signal from the noise, if you like. And so I just really wanted to make sure that, you know, Warwick wasn't sort of distracted and wasn't just, you know, caught up in all the sort of day-to-day madness, that he didn't have time to think about what the pandemic might mean for Lawcadia, and that he had his head up, if you like, and looking around. And of course he did. And, you know, he was, you know, already many steps ahead. And I think, you know, really Lawcadia did a fantastic job in their immediate response to the crisis. You know, particularly looking after the team, making sure that they were safe and that they were able to continue to work and support customers and be productive. Working from home, that happened, you know, absolutely seamlessly. But then secondly, turning it into an opportunity to really help Lawcadia's customers by partnering with a law firm, Gaydens, and in an astonishingly quick amount of time, coming up with a COVID-19 legal workflow to help Lawcadia's customers deal with, you know, what may well be a sort of coming tsunami of legal issues as we emerge into the COVID recovery. So, you know, I think Warwick and yourself and the whole Lawcadia team, you know, did a fantastic job. And, you know, if that was a useful nudge, then I'm really glad to have done that.
And moving on to kind of a different angle, Andy, you're really passionate about sort of sustainability, and I'm really interested to hear about how you think this crisis is impacting and will impact the issue of sustainability for, you know, government, corporates, and individuals, and kind of how they will change the way that they relate to sustainability.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a great question, and it is an area I'm really passionate about. I think it can go two ways. So looking back to 2008 and the GFC, at that time we were starting to think about sustainability analytics and starting to talk to some of our large customers about sustainability reporting and analytics, and really, you know, getting some interest. But then sadly the GFC came along And straight away, it seemed like, the corporate mindset was everything is now about cost, and sustainability was seen as something that perhaps they couldn't afford to invest in. And that's over 10 years now. So I feel the sustainability agenda was set backwards by the GFC, and I really hope that's not the case this time around. I'm actually really optimistic that it won't be. And I think part of the reason is we're running out of time, and I think we all understand that. But I think also COVID-19 had such a personal impact, on individuals, on families. It's forced us all to reflect and think about what's important to us. And money isn't necessarily the biggest thing. I think we're understanding, that relationships are important, and how we function as a society and our impact on the planet. And I hope that this sort of forced isolation has given us a little bit of time to reflect on that, and that we may come out the other side, with a sort of, we may look back on this as being the moment that the sustainability agenda changed, and that, our collective mindset said, we need a new future. We need to think about how the world could be, and then we need to figure out how to make it so.
What advice do you have for leaders right now and over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I think be bold, try things. I really do think that what the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us is that there are actually really big risks in business as usual. We can't just assume that everything will be the way it was indefinitely. I think change is something that is coming to us. Disruptive change is something that's coming to us in a ever rapid pace. And I think the going forward, leaders need to lead and not follow. And I think perhaps the risks of following will be much greater than the risks of leading. So I would say, yeah, be bold, try things. Let's try some radical change. Not all of it will work, but some of it will. And from a sustainability point of view, I feel very positive and optimistic that the solutions that the world needs already exist. We just need to adopt them. And so I'm hoping that this will be the turning point in the next 10 years. We'll see us pick up some fantastic changes, and we may look back on what has been a really tragic event, but we might see it as actually the wake-up call that we all needed.
Thank you, Andy. That's absolutely fantastic. And, we always really appreciate your support and insights to us personally and professionally. It always adds so much value.
Oh, likewise, Tasha. Thanks. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.